there was one video I saw in particular. He was finding Thai women who were built like black women. He was finding Thai women who had like these curves and these big bums, and whether it's surgery or it's natural, that's what they were looking for. So what I do find that is so hilarious is when a lot of these black guys do go out of black women, they try to find white women that have features of black women.
Do you feel like there is en masse black women leaving the country looking for either non-black men outside of the UK and America, or black men from other countries, like African men, Caribbean men? Do you think en masse there is a move towards that from black women?
I think a lot of people are just looking for love. Like, let's be practical. Whether there's a mass, I think social media does start a movement or a trend. I mean, I am not well informed with Prosper Bros and this type of, you keep me clued up of what's going on. But from what I see and how much phenomena it's causing, I do think that people do follow trends, and I do think that maybe we're in a time where there's an awakening, especially particularly for black women, where they're feeling like, okay, actually they don't have to wait on black men. Because I think a lot of us, which is we waited for black men, or like we all want to be married to, or I hope, to people who look like us. But I think primarily black women, we waited for a long time, and I think now a lot of them are just feeling like, okay, actually I have options. Doesn't have to, my relationship doesn't have to, or my love doesn't have to just come from a black man. It could be from a person from a different race, and I think there's a few influencers who've shown that as well. And I think a lot of people are wakening up to that idea. Is it a bad thing? I don't think it is. I just don't want people to be sold a false narrative. Even in that relationship, you still have to work. It has to, like you said, you have to have considered all the other things that come with it. Interracial relationships are tough, just our intercultural relationships. So you have to think about, again, will the family accept you? Holidays, where are people going? I mean, when it's about black issues, what is his perspective? What are his views? What are your views? All those things that make you, but also should be part of the conversation, should be had. The one thing I find that is interesting when people who talk about interracial relationship is they don't talk about the race stuff, right? They avoid it in the relationships. And I'm like, but how are you really with this person for good? Like, so it's, yeah, I mean, I think if you are that far inclined and you enjoy that and you want that, go for it. But just be mindful of what you're asking for, and be prepared to work through those uncomfortable things. Will it be successful? Nobody knows. Could be, could not be, and that's okay. No pressure. I think we're putting so much pressure on this idea that if I now date a white man, then we will all succeed. It will be amazing. We'll be happy. We'll have mixed race kids, and everything will be perfect. That's not true. That's also another human being who has their own problems, their own issues, coming from a different background. And also, I think sometimes when we say another race, we assume that those people are wealthy or better, and that's also a false narrative. Like, you could date a white guy who doesn't have money. And I think we maybe just need to open ourselves a bit more to that idea. And if you are dating, date because you like the person, not because you're trying to prove a black guy that you like a white man, or that you're trying to prove people that you found love. Because again, that's not the reason to date or go for an interracial relationship. Let me not answer my own. Anyways, yeah, that's my response.
Go on, Rose.
I don't think it's happening en masse. I think what's happened, in my opinion, right? Social media has made everything seem like it's happening like everywhere, and everyone is going through this thing, and and I don't feel like that's the case at all. It's very like social media has like it's given us this lens, right, where we can see into the lives of people that we probably would never talk about, hear about, or see. And so now that we are seeing more of these women coming online talking about black men, black men hate black women, and I think it's like, we were talking about yesterday, Esther, but Ngozi, sorry, when there's like an echo chamber, When you're within a certain circle, or, you know, you're like, for example, on Twitter, depending on the people that you follow, depending on what they retweet, that's what you see, right? But in the real world, it might not be happening that same way or happening to that extent. So I think that's ultimately what's happening, because it's very easy to go on YouTube, for example, and type in interracial relationships, and you see like a whole list of, you know, in YouTubers in interracial relationships. But if you actually search Black love and Black relationships, I find you would actually find more Black people in relationships with other Black people than you would find interracial relationships. I don't think there's actually more people in interracial relationships. What I do know, that is,
in America, yeah, go on.
no, what I was gonna say, I think what tends to happen is these relationships, because it's a topic, right? I think it's more likely for interracial couples to jump on social media together, as you might find Black couples, because a lot of Black men don't actually want to be on social media. That's why when you find on YouTube, there's this conversation that always happens of, you know, why don't more Black men become influencers? Why don't more Black men do these videos and do this videos? Because there's a market for it. But I don't feel like Black men really want to, you know, of course there are Black males out there who put themselves out there, but I think when it comes to relationships, sometimes women have to force their husbands to be on, you know, even when you look at shows like Love and Hip Hop, and you don't always see the partner in the scenes. They don't want to be involved in it. So I don't feel like it's happening en masse, but what I do feel like, because there's this huge conversation around Black men hating Black women, it's being more amplified. And the more something is amplified, naturally, the more you're going to see it. On the flip side, with passport bros, it's so interesting, because I'd never heard about this passport bros thing until I saw these videos about these American men, right? What happens is you have these American men Black American men who go to places like Thailand, and they find Thai women, and it's so weird, because there was one video I saw in particular. He was finding Thai women who were built like Black women. He was finding Thai women who had like these curves and these big bums, and, you know, whether it's surgery or it's natural, that's what they were looking for. So what I do find that is so hilarious is when a lot of these Black guys do go out of Black women, they try to find white women that have features of Black women. So I think on both sides, what tends to happen is people end up settling, because I don't like, obviously there's different reasons, like with Black women, I feel like, and this might sound bad mind, but I feel like it is settling, because if your reason is I'm gonna go over here because Black men don't want me, and suddenly you have a preference for white men that you never had before, but you've now decided to open yourself up to being attracted to white men, I feel like that's desperation. I'm so sorry. That's what I see as. And then on the flip side as well, I feel like it is desperation. And it's also because it's an ego boost. If you know that these women fetishize you, right, as a Black man, you know that there's this whole stereotype of the BBC and all of this stuff, and you're not getting love from your own women. You know that when you go over there, these women are going to be drooling over you, whether it's because they think you have money and they're trying to come to America or come to the UK, or it's because like, but that's more times what it is. You know, we see it happen. Like, the question is, like I said before, we don't know if they actually love you or is lust, but what we do find when these Black men go, they know that they're being lusted over. They know it. So it's like this ego boost. They're going somewhere where they know that they're getting that love regardless of what type of love it is. But I'll leave it there. I feel like I've been talking too much.
No, you're making a good point. Can I just ask? So with the passport bros, if I understand, the reason they go abroad is because they feel like Black women are, they said they're masculine, they just want money, isn't it? But then you spend money on the Thai girl to bring her over. No, so I don't understand. Where does that? It's not adding up.
So some of them don't. bring them over because they genuinely know that the Thai girls are more likely with them for papers, because it defeats the purpose, because they kind of know what they say is that if they bring the Thai girl over or the Brazilian girl over or the Philly girl over, what's going to happen is that she's going to be influenced by the Americans, and then next minute, after 5-6 years, she's got her green paper. She's now
So they go there to do what? To get married because why?
Sorry?
They're getting there because they're proving a point to Black women that they can meet a Thai woman.
They say that is because they're easy, they're more approachable, there's less
More
stress, less hassle.
subservient.
They're more subservient / submissive. Their money goes longer, so obviously they feel like they won't say this, but they say it without saying this because they get excited at the fact that their £5,000 can last a whole year in Brazil and Thailand, and you feel you got money. When we know that because we travel, it's just like, bruv, that 400 quid is lasting 2 weeks, but we know how much 400 quid lasts in the UK. So they're what do you call it? They go.
So are they marrying for love, or are they marrying because they want somebody to do work for them? I don't understand.
They will say they're loving. They say that they're marrying for love, but their love has conditions.
They could, you know what? There could be some men who actually go out there and then they do fall in love, but I think the intent might not always be to fall in love, right? The same way that on the flip side with Black women who suddenly decide that, okay, I'm going to give white men a try, is to test it out. And then you might actually genuinely meet someone that you do like, right? You start to like them and you build a relationship with them, and, you know, but with the passport bros, I think what's so sinister about it, like with the videos that I've seen, is the way that they treat these women. Like they treat them like food, right? So their whole purpose is to show Black women, look, we can go over here and we can get better than you. Look at how
that's what I'm saying. Then who's controlling the narrative? The Black woman is still running the show, and that's the weird part, is if you're doing things to prove to me, then you really care about me. And for me, that just defeats the whole purpose. And if any man for me has to go to that extent, it's not a man for me. And why would they be loudly talking about it? Why are they so proud about it? Like, it's so embarrassing. And if it is that you did one woman was submissive, why is your first option not Africa? Why is it Thailand?
Oh, some of them are, but I think some of them are going to Africa, because an African woman did a thingamajig, did say, like, we are aware, we are going to use you as well. What she was basically saying, and what's been happening, is that a lot of these women from third world countries are saying, look, please understand that this is a two-way thing. You can come, we'll make you feel good, we will boost your ego, but we ain't stupid. We understand your English. We watch the podcast where you Black men talk about you African American women and compare us. Yeah, maybe some girls really like it, but really and truly, no, we will use you for what you're using us to. I don't think they're going in mass to Africa, though. Realistically, they go in because they don't want Black women, so they're not going to go to Africa.
Yeah,
they want the exotic type women.
So the problem is not Black women. The problem is self-hate. Then they don't like them.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely self-hating.
You know what? I'm trying to find something, right? I'll share with you guys after if I find it. There was actually a video that this guy did where it was like tips for Black men who want to go, you know, across the pond.
Let them go. I think that's great because it separates the good men from the bad men. Let the people do what they need to do. I think it's amazing that we're seeing such men showcase their true their characters, because white men do the same. White men date outside as well. Like they date Asian,
a lot
as in Chinese, but they don't come on podcasts talking about or trashing white women. I think there's a problem with Black men. There's just this, I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's especially Black American men. I don't understand what's going on. I think the problem, I don't know what's going on there. Don't know what water they're drinking, or that what is that drive-through shops that they go and eat from. Something is in that food. They all need help.
Honestly, Anthony Holman is the.
Oh, sorry to cut yourself.
No, I was saying that Anthony Holman is meant to be. He's not really, but they've put him as the leader. I think you're talking about him. Anthony Holman is the one that talks about, you know, advising Black men what to do.
And he was saying the countries not to go to, like, don't go to Ghana, don't go
He may have
to.
been a different person, but Anthony Holman has been seen as the
Okay.
leader of the Passport Bros, and he's the one that was kicked out of Brazil and went to Thailand. And oh my God, this was crazy. The behavior they accept from the woman. The girl was pushing his head. She was doing this to the guy, and he was going, it shows you the low self-esteem of these men is so shocking and disgusting, because it really is. Like, you are getting hit by the head by these Thai girls, and you're telling us that the American girls are the ones that are aggressive, but you got
What
this
Yeah.
people
girl.
accept in interracial relationships, you'll be shocked. That's the one
It's
thing I
true.
find interesting is, and I don't know if you also saw the interracial couples, like how they would laugh about, oh, my partner doesn't cook, right? That they would just pop maybe pizza or bend the rice or whatever else. Those are things that if you are a black couple, you'd be shamed for as a black woman for not being able to do. But what a black man would accept in a white relationship, oh, he's
They
very much
lower their
okay to do.
standards.
He's just very much okay to go to Starbucks for dinner, darling. He's okay with that.
Yeah.
But if you're together as a black woman, you need to cook. You need to be able to, do the whole 3-course meal. What people accept in interracial relationships, and that's why I said what that lady said was key about she dropped her preferences. A lot of people do that when they go to the other side. Like, they simplify their life so much more. I live in like a village, and when I do see international couple, it's the same. The man now, is doing everything. Literally, I see black men when they were Caucasian, they do everything. Pick up this, cook, at the forefront, pick the child up here, wipe the kid. When they're with a black woman, it's a very different man altogether. So I do think that people change with who they choose to be with and accept certain things. And also parents, have you seen family members are also accepting if your brother brings a Caucasian girl, she doesn't know any better, just leave it. If now your brother brings a black girl from another country, it's embarrassing. Oh, why couldn't she do that? Like, we're tough on ourselves, and we're very much more lenient when people are foreign. And yeah, there's just more acceptance. I think it's much easier. I think there's a narrative of white is right. So when men do date white women, they seem like there's like a rite of passage. Or that they've dated up. That's always the assumption, even within families, is in-laws. Like, we just assume that person is now doing better, which is usually quite false. But yeah, that's, people accept a lot of weird stuff.
And just lastly, the last point in that is that it's interesting that in terms of like the divorce rates, that the highest divorce rates are black men with white women. The lowest divorce rates are actually black women with white men. So a lot of these interracial couples don't talk about the breakup. They don't talk about the fact that so many mixed race children are in the foster care. Like, oh my God, that the amount of mixed race children. I'll never forget a conversation I had with her. Oh, where was she from? Was she black or white? I can't remember. Was she? I had a conversation with a black grandmother over her mixed race child, and obviously her son was black, and he was with a white mother, and I think I was sectioning the boy, and I don't know how we got into this conversation, but she really just broke a lot of things down and kind of broke down, saying, look, all of these people that talk about interracial relationship, they're lying. Saying that not all couples, but she was saying, do you know how difficult it has been? She's saying that she feels that her child is unwell, and I wouldn't say she can blame the white side, but she was saying that the way that they are, the way that they act, just so many different things she wasn't happy with, and the level of inter-family fights, to the point where the child is just confused. The husband don't talk to the wife takes away the kids, all of these different things. And we know what happens in black households and also in white households. But these are the things that I find very interesting when I hear men, especially even some black women that are divestors, they don't talk about the difficulties. Why are we seeing high rates of divorce across the board, but a lot of times with black men and white women? What's going on there? What's happening? You're getting together at a high rate, especially in the UK, it's 50-50, but you're divorcing very quickly. I feel like there needs to be a wider conversation of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Why you, like you said, Penelope, don't give me a false narrative. Give me say, look, this might be this might be that, but that. Lastly, I would say is this. I was talking to a Cameroonian Spanish man. He said that obviously living in Spain, he had a lot of self-hate, was very colorist. He wanted to be white himself. He only dated white women. His wife is currently white, but the woman that he thought he would marry just before her was black. And he even said that if he did it again, if he could have another go, he would marry a black. And I said, wow, why? He said, if I'm really honest, he loves his wife. They're both believers. He met her in church, but he would have kids right now. He says she don't want kids right now. Like, she wants to do her career, you know. So there's a lot of things that I'm sacrificing. And I just thought it was powerful because, again, that's a conversation that needs to be heard. You know, the whole idea that Black women are not submissive, it really confuses me, because feminism was technically created by white women. I know that they try to make Black women the face of feminism. But feminism is still, to me, white women are the face of feminism.
The writing, everything, Esther.
Like, it's all like, and I read Black feminism, and it's a minority. So the majority of feminism is white. Don't get it confused on social media.
The suffragettes
is still pushed by white women. White women,
especially wealthy white women, is a class thing as well.
Because they got tired of being housewives.
So the whole idea, anyway, there's a lot. I just find the interracial conversation very skewed to just, like you said, it's better, rather than saying, you know what, there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons. Your social capital will change. If you marry a middle-class white person, male or female, your social capital is going to change. That is definitely. But there's pros and cons, because we already know that integrating and the biculturalism of being Black in certain environments is uncomfortable. So unless, to me, you were brought up in Surrey and Kent, some of these Black guys that are with white girls were brought up in South London, Peckham, bruv, eating Morley's. And then you're now telling me you're eating Yorkshire pudding and pies and you're happy. It's okay. It's all good. Anyway,
it's interesting.
You know what? Just to briefly touch lastly on what you said, I think that is so key. The conversation that is never had. I know when we talk about mixed race children and mixed race people, we often talk about them being confused, right? But I think the other side of it that they don't talk about, that I've seen quite often on social media, are the mixed race children who end up being raised by their white family who are racist, right? There's so many mixed race children. So, like, let's say, for example, you've got an interracial couple. Man is Black, woman is white. And for whatever reason, the family separates and the man moves away and the child is spending more time with the family. And this is a family that do not like Black people. Naturally, they're going to see your child as Black. That child is going to be treated as Black. The horror stories I've heard from mixed race people who have been called the N-word by their own mothers when they've gotten angry, because what you're having is these Black men are marrying, and obviously not all, some of these Black men who are marrying white women, knowing that these women just see you as a fetish, and then you have a child with them, and then you've got these social media accounts where people fetishize mixed race kids having mixed babies. Like, there's actual pages on Instagram, on Twitter, where people talk about how much they want a mixed baby, and then when you do get that mixed baby that doesn't actually look mixed, that looks more Black than mixed, who doesn't have that hair that you imagine them having, who actually ends up having 4C hair or is a bit darker, what treatment then does that child get? And I think this is where people don't think, and you're not thinking about the potential consequences of you getting into a situation just because you want to get your ego pumped and you feel like Black women are this and white women are that. Just lastly, quick, I saw a post by this Black man on Twitter, and he spoke. He's quite popular. He went to his wife's family's house for Thanksgiving, and her grandmother was so racist that they didn't allow him in the house. And he spent the whole of Thanksgiving in the car. How many Black men in those situations, because I'm sure he's not the only one, will go to their Black woman's house, and then the mum is rude, or or whoever is rude.
They're going into that house and sitting down, my friend.
So yeah, it was interesting to see that they're willing to lower their standards and to really, really be mistreated just in the name of not having a Black woman.
Let me add on that point of mixed race kids being raised by the white racist side. I have a prime example. So my friend Heather, the one that I love, her parents are fostering 2 mixed race kids who were in the foster care, but they've decided to keep them on or continue fostering them till they're 18 because the parents broke up. The mom wasn't well mentally, and the dad also, is not the best caretaker. And those situations happen quite often. But the grandmother is well and capable to look after the kids, but she wouldn't. She doesn't want to take those, as she classes them, black kids. So much so that she lives in the same town as them. When she sees them, she walks past the kids because they're black. But taking into account that these mixed race kids are being raised by a white family now who are Christian, so just that confusion for a child, like you have a grandmother who's white, doesn't even acknowledges you when they see you in town, doesn't even want to look at you because she considers you to be black. You're being raised by a white family who's not your parents. It's very bad, and like you said, the care system is filled with so many mixed race kids, and we don't even take that into account because people are irresponsible when they get into these relationships. Like you said, it's either based on lust or this notion that this is a black guy who's going to just give me what I need. Then they end up pregnant and not think about the consequences and the aftermath. Like those are children, those are people. And but then I don't know, it's a vicious cycle, and I do feel bad. I agree. Like I also had a friend who was like, you don't know what it's like to not know where you belong. And I think Akala also alludes to this when he wrote his book, and he's obviously a very Pan-Africanist, pro-black, but his mother is white, and he said he was always in confusion, coming home to a white mother, but having this strong desire for his heritage and his black side. It was conflicting, so much so that they had to get to a point where they just had to sit down, and he had to really express to her that all the things that I'm dealing with, it's not personal, it's not about you. And this is why I want to highlight that it's not about race. Like you kind of have to look past it. It is, but not also not. If you start dating people because they're white or black, you're actually playing yourself, because it's a challenge. There are going to be uncomfortable questions. The person might even say something racist that for them might not come across. Or I give you an example. My mom, like we live in the countryside, we would go to a restaurant. Like my stepdad was very romantic. That was just who he was. We would come to a restaurant, and then they would assume my mom is a cleaner. In that moment, you all have to acknowledge that that was a racist encounter. If now you're with somebody where you're just all avoiding, or you don't want to actually discuss the reality of it, or that person assumes that racism doesn't exist, how are you going to be how are you going to feel seen or valued or validated in those moments? And a lot of couples just don't avoid those type of income. But even if you do, it doesn't mean the racism stops. And I think some people are under this assumption that if I date a interracial person, I will never have to deal with any racism again. Actually, sometimes it's more heightened, because now you're around the family. People ask you certain questions that are uncomfortable. Now, like even Melody Hobson, she has a daughter, and people would say, oh, is that your child? And they assume you're a babysitter. Things like that, where you're like, my goodness, race is everywhere. So yeah, I just don't want people to have a false image or walk into these relationships ignorant. If that makes sense.
No, good conversation, ladies. Thank you.